In this video, we'll show how to make multiple XY plots arranged in frames in Tecplot for Barracuda. This slide is from the chemistry training project in our Barracuda training directory, and it shows the final result that we are going for, where we would like to have all four of these plots in a single Tecplot window. I will bring up the Barracuda window, and let's start Tecplot for Barracuda by using this post-processor button on the post-run page of Barracuda. This will bring up a blank Tecplot for Barracuda window with no data loaded at the moment. And so let's get some data into here using the Barracuda loader, file, load Barracuda data, load data file. The output file that we want to select here is called trans.data00. So we load that, and we can see that by default it plots column 1 versus column 2, which in this case is time versus fluid temperature. The first step here is to create the 4 frames that we want to work with. We can do that by selecting the edge of this frame, and you can see how these handles have appeared to show us that it's selected. We can use Ctrl+C to copy the frame, and then we can press Ctrl+V 3 times, and that creates 3 copies of this frame. So here, let's go to Frame, Tile Frames, and we'll choose the grid view. And this will show us all 4 frames at the same time, tiled 2 by 2. Let's start with the upper left frame first. Here we want to show fluid temperature and pressure at the same time. If we double click on our data line, this is already fluid temperature. So we can leave that selected. And then the second row is pressure, so let's select pressure so that it is active. And let's scroll over. We can right click on this option for which y-axis and choose Y2. So this puts pressure on the Y2 axis. A few more things to make this plot look a little bit better. One, let's add a line legend. So if we do plot line legend, we can check the box for show line legend, and we can close that. As you can see, the line legend text is pretty long here. It says fluid temperature at some XYZ position. We can make that a little bit shorter by going back to our mapping style dialog. We can double click on the map name and change it to just the text that we want. So in this case, let's use temperature. If we hit enter, it updates that line legend text. Similarly, we can change this one to pressure and hit enter, and it updates that text. Here we can click and drag the line legend to put it in the position we want. One other thing is that we can fix these axis labels. If we double click on the axis label itself, we can change from use variable name to use text. This label can be fluid temperature in Kelvin. And if we hit enter, it will update that. If we double click on this axis label, we can say use text. This can be absolute pressure in pascals. Hit enter, it updates that text. And finally, we can fix some of the spacing issues on the Y2 axis by using this detailed selection tool. It's called the adjust tool, and it has an arrow with a little dot at the end of it. So click that, click the imaginary top line on this box that the plot is sitting in, and we can adjust the right-hand edge, maybe a little bit more, and then we can click the legend text itself, grab that, and move it out that way. And if we right-click, it exits that mode back to a regular selection. We can also notice here that when we adjusted the plot, it chopped off a little bit of this time axis. So let's click into the middle of the plot and type Ctrl+F, and so that will fix our time axis as well. And so I think we're done with this frame now. Let's move on to the second frame. In this one, we want to show particle volume fraction versus time. So when I click on this frame, the mapping style dialog is now ready to work on it. So I'm going to unclick the box to show the fluid temperature map and click the box to show the particle volume fraction map. Click in there, hit Ctrl+F, it will auto-scale the plot again. And in this case, let's adjust this text on the axis label again. let's change it to more simply particle volume fraction and say close. Okay, so that frame is in good shape now too. For the third frame, what we wanted to show was gas species by mole fraction. And so again, click there. Our mapping style dialog updates to match the frame that's now active. Uncheck the box for fluid temperature, and then scroll down a little bit. We want mole fractions of CO, H2, and H2O. So I'm going to check these boxes. Press Ctrl+F to auto scale the data. And then let's add a few things here. One is, again, we can add a line legend now that we have multiple lines on the plot. Plot, line legend, show line legend. We can simplify the line legend names again by editing the map names. So here I'm going to just edit this one so it says CO, edit this one so it says H2, edit this one so it says H2O. Now our legend is a little simpler. We can simplify our y-axis title. So we'll say use text and we'll say gas species mole fractions. And we can also adjust the range of this y-axis. Right now it goes from 0.25 to 0.5. These two lines are very close to 0.25, so it's a little tough to tell exactly where they start. If you double click on the numbers themselves or on the axis itself, we can go to range. We can change that minimum from 0.25 to simply 0.2. And once we hit tab, we can see that it adjusts that. And one more tweak is that the CO line is right behind the H2 line. So let's use some symbols so that we can see where the CO data is. First, we can turn on the symbol mapping layer over here. And then we can go to the Symbols tab in the mapping style. We can uncheck the box for show symbols on H2 and H2O. The CO symbols are all very crowded here. There are a lot of data points, and so it's trying to draw a square on each data point right now. We can change the symbol type by right-clicking and choosing some other type, let's say diamond. And on symbol spacing, we can right-click and choose this option for enter index. And in this one, we can tell it to do a skip of 100, works well in this case. And so we can say OK. And you can see that it gets rid of a lot of the symbols, spaces them out a little bit more evenly. We can right-click on fill mode and choose line color. And so now those symbols are a little easier to see. Okay, so that frame is in good shape now as well. The final frame, we want to show reaction rate data. So again, make this frame active and go back to your main definitions tab. Let's turn off the fluid temperature map and go to the very bottom of this listing. We want to turn on R00 and R01. Click in your plot and hit Ctrl+F to auto scale everything. Let's change our title on the left. Use text, reaction rate, and the units here are kmols per meter cubed per second. So we can say OK there. And here we do have a data set that again is very close to the bottom of our y-axis range here. So if we double click the axis line, let's choose range, and instead of 2e to the -6, let's go all the way to 0 and say close. So now we can see that orange line. Let us add a line legend box. So we will show that. And again, we can simplify the text in this box by editing the map names. So here we'll say R00, this one R01. So now that legend box is a little smaller. And I think that plot is complete as well. So that concludes this video on how to use multiple frames to show several XY plots all at the same time in Tecplot for Barracuda.